Okay, let's get started. And first of all, make sure if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. Okay, what I wanted to do start today was, like I said last time, I would like to hear somebody update me on the real estate market in Cambodia or whatever your city in the Cambodia might be. You might from Phnom Penh or other places. Can you tell me a little bit about your real estate market? Is it a good market, bad market? Anybody could share? Or maybe something like how did COVID affect your real estate market? I'm sure it did for foreign investor coming in to invest money, but is there otherwise anything that affected your market during COVID? Anybody would like to share? Nobody? The question is then, do you know your market? I know the English might not be best for you, but if you could share, I appreciate it. Because I want to get to know the Cambodia market as well. Anybody willing to speak? Nobody? Okay, I guess no one wants to speak today yet. That's okay. I'm going to ask the same question tomorrow, and I'm going to hopefully somebody will be able to explain to me how the Cambodia market is. All right, we will start from page 103 in a new booklet, right? In chapter 4, module 4. Any question you have from the previous days? I know that it was the last 2 weeks, so some of you might forgot. We talked about everything from showing to everything till we start now making an offer. Everybody's okay? So these are the items that you're going to be learning for module 4. Position yourself for success by educating your client about the offer process and conducting a thorough market analysis to determine your client's negotiation position. Assist your client in formulating an informed and competitive offer based on objective valuation tools. Guide your clients through the process of presenting an offer and negotiating with the seller to get the best outcome possible. So this might sound to be a little bit different when you are representing both sides. And in Cambodia, most of you told me that we don't have a buyer agent. Everybody works for the seller. But remember, in our business, every seller becomes the buyer and every buyer becomes a seller one of these times. So it's always best to take care all of the client of the people that you're in contact with. Yes, you're representing seller and you want to make sure that your seller gets the best price, but you want to make sure it's reasonable and within the market. So you are not creating a problem with your buyer, potential buyer, even though you don't represent them. And you could things get very ugly if you don't do the right job. And bad word travels very fast. All right. So first of all, preparing your buyer, educate the buyer. You have an obligation to Educate your buyer. How is the negotiation process going to work? How the transaction going to work in this the real estate? And also you need to be able to explain the forms and the document that's related to this new real estate transaction, that's including offer sheet or real estate contract. And I think one of our goals that we do as a buyer broker, or even as a real estate agent's job, is to manage emotions. You have to manage your emotions as to make a better decision, because especially on a residential, when people are buying or selling their home, they get very emotional. The emotion comes into play, and emotion takes over, and you can make a wrong decision because you're mad or you're excited. It's our job as a real estate professional to calm them down and explain to them so that they take the emotions away, and we help them make the better decision without emotion. So that's very important in the real estate, either side that you're talking about. So help your client prepare. Number one, you client be prepared, create a negotiating strategies. You want to talk to the buyer and figure out how you're going to negotiate, even with the seller, if you're helping the buyer. So for example, today, I show a house to one of my buyers. The buyer really liked it. So we had a strategy session. I explained to them, they knew it before, how we want to strategize and how we should make an offer to the seller. And we review all the documents the seller provided. In one of the documents that we reviewed today, there was a question about the zoning code that potentially could be, or building code that potentially could be in violation. They built a structure without getting a permission from the government or the county or the city. So technically speaking, one building, which is a garage, was illegally built. Is it going to be a problem? Maybe, maybe not. If government doesn't know about it, maybe not. But in the future, if they're trying to build more buildings or change the building, the government is going to find out that one of the structure was not built by getting permit. So that could become an issue. With that, my buyer really liked the house, but my buyer says, Mark, I don't want to take gamble in the future, so I am going to back out. So we never made an offer. Is that a good thing, bad things? You know, they apologized to me, says, Mark, I'm sorry for taking your time and doing this, and we decided not to make an offer. I say, it's okay. We go through the process, and if we don't, you know, if something goes wrong later, we are going to be hurt and going to be involved. So better to make this decision in the front, whether you want to take that risk or not. And that was the risk. Discuss binding offers. What does binding offer mean? Offer have to be accepted from both sides in order to become a contract. Just making an offer really does not do anything. Seller accepting the offer has the binding offer and binding contract. Confidentiality of offer. I am going to discuss with my buyer whatever is on the paperwork outside of that situation the buyer's in, everything is confidential until the buyer said it is okay to tell that to the other party or to the seller. Till then, it is a binding. Confidentiality is very important. That's why it's very difficult to play dual agency, meaning representing the seller, representing the buyer on the same transaction. The confidentiality becomes very, very hard because you hear a lot of things from the seller, you're going to hear the same thing from the buyer, and you have to determine what's a confidential, and you might not give a good, strong advice to either party. That was like that in US as well, but we always had a lot of the buyer agency side. So buyer agency was created so that you have as a buyer, you have your own agent to help you, not relying on the listing agent who has a prior relationship or established relationship with the seller. How about evaluating your client's negotiation position? This is 106 on the new booklet. Hopefully everybody has the new booklet, or should I load it on the chat room again? Everybody has a version 5 booklet?
Yes, teacher, we got it from you last week.
Okay, good. So we'll do that. Okay, thank you. So evaluating your client's negotiating position. First of all, what kind of things do you have? First of all, you have the data. Sometimes you might have a data, maybe not widely available like in the United States, but you have a data on comparables. Comparable means this type of house was sold for how much, or same type of houses on the market for how much. Comparing those is very important. That's the data, and that's part of the information. It says on the page 106, information that was provided, including the data, is that information accurate? And all the information the seller is providing to you, is that accurate information? We should be, information becomes a knowledge. And knowledge will help you make the right decision. All the knowledge then becomes an insight. You're going to know more about how to negotiate. That's including how the client have a money, or how they want to buy this house. And all those things are part of the information and data. And you need to have that is more important. We'll continue on here with the data. Collection of the facts from which conclusion can be drawn, often raw or unorganized. Data could be everywhere, so it's a limitless. Data is just a data, but that data should become an information, data that is verified, specific and organized, presented within the context, used to increase understanding. These value lies in ability to affect behavior, decision, and outcome. The knowledge-wise, understand that comes from the combination of data, information, experience, individual interpretation. That's for the buyer and also you as a agent that you're going to have interpretation and from the experience you have. Insight, application of knowledge that looks towards the future, intelligent for forecasting based on experience. One of our goals as a real estate agent is to give an insight to our clients. That's your knowledge, information, your data, and your experience all form the insight that you're able to, advice that you're able to give to your buyer. Sharing insight. It is always good for insight is something that you have, for processing, correlate large data into meaningful market insight. Use visually compelling graphs and charts. If you're giving a data, use a graph and chart, not just a word or numbers, because it looks a lot easier. Show reality of local market. Your expert analysis is a trusted source that client seeks. So one of the things that I do is I'll share with you is this. I share a little bit with you, but I'm going to share again just for information purposes. Just a moment. Sorry about that. I'm going to share some documents. This is some of the data, very easy data sheet that I share. I might would have shared with you last week, but I figure it's always good to share. So I share this data with my clients. I might do it in the King County, or sometimes I could do a postal code or a postal code or city. I could go narrow down to it. So these are the data I share with my buyer and seller, what is the current situation is like. You got the residential, condo, then it kind of puts it in a graph as well. So it's very, very easy to understand this way. What is the median sales price, average sales price, month supply of inventory, how much inventory we have? We only have a 0.3 months, only 10 days of inventory, and things like that. You're able to share. And you might be able to create similar type of document for your market if you choose to, so that seller and the buyer, not just the buyer, they both could understand how the market is. For us, MLS is able to create these documents for us in our market. Okay, and I did load this sheet on the chat room for your review as well, if you want to see it, what it looks like. Could be a good example to use. Your expert analysis is a trusted source that client seeks. Clients seeking for your expertise. So have type of expertise. You're able to explain the real estate market to anybody come across. Remember, the real estate is and whether it's a good real estate market or bad real estate market, it's always a topic of discussion, topic of conversation at the parties and dinners and so forth. So that's why you always have a good, quick information about real estate data. Question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yes. Very quick. It's very interesting. I mean, what you can pull out the market outlook, I would say, that document. I think we need some, data sources. That's why no one could was willing to give you the answer this morning. It's something new. We're not used to something like this, and I think we some of us even think that too many numbers or too much numbers could confuse our clients too. So I'm wondering how you would, explain the number on the sheet to your client, to your potential client.
I know. Let's use the sheet that I posted.
Yes,
I'm going to bring the sheet back up, right?
Yes.
But this is actually very, very simple version of the numbers. And it's not that different. The main part that our client's going to be looking at is this. Number one, in the United States, most of the places, it's very easy to get these numbers because we have MLS, system called MLS, and most of the other countries don't have MLS. So this is a data from the entire market. But you might be at least able to create this type of things from your company data that you might have, your office data. That is okay too, right? Maybe within I don't know how in Cambodia, maybe within your franchise company, master franchise company might be able to create this type of data through their company. But here, a couple of things that I pay really attention to. This always compares from the previous year to this year. So what happened in February of 2021 versus February 2022? It shows that we did get a little bit more inventory, new listing to come up compared to last year, maybe 100 of them. Make sure you're not talking, Chia, make sure you mute it. Okay. And this shows that, yeah, we have more houses came on the market by 6% compared to last year. Actually, this year's market is a little bit better. But when we start going down, closed sales, we have less houses that was sold, 24% less. Days on the market. What is days on the market? Days on the market is how long did the house take to get offer and go under contract? Then usually takes about 30 more days to close the transaction. Now we went from 21 days to 11 days compared to last year, 10 days less. For the seller, this important information is good. It's important because seller could figure out, okay, how could my house could sell? Average time right now is 11 days. For the buyer, what does that mean? Is the house doesn't stay there quick, it goes off quickly. So what does that mean? Is, yeah, you have to be ready to go. Look at the median price. Median price, as you know, is half of the price that's sold. It's the in between, the middle one. Average is, of course, you add everything up, it's divided. We in the real estate, we like to use a median sales price better because average sales price could be obscure if you have one listing that's sold for very, very low or one listing that's sold for very, very high, and the average number gets obscure. But you may look at this. Median sales price is $865,000, 14% increase since last year. How about average price? 18%. And houses are selling about 5.6% above listing price. What does that mean? Is people are paying more than the listed price is. That might not be familiar with a lot of the Asian market because we always price it and we think we negotiate it down in the list price. But in the United States right now on the seller's market, people are paying. So basically, if you buy $100,000 property, if you want to buy $100,000 property, you're going to have to offer and close for right around $105,000 because 5% increase. Inventory home for sales at the end of the month, we are 42% less than the previous year. Month supply of inventory, that has gone down. Used to be 0.5 months, which is about 15 days. Now it's a 0.3 month, which is about 10 days. And same thing for condo. And this one kind of shows you on the median price from previously on the graph, so you could see how it is. One thing that you could see here, 2010-11, we kind of dipped a little bit, but from there on, it keeps going up. So even from 2003 January to 2021 January, even though we had a little bit of a downturn here in 2009 and so forth, our price used to be a little bit over 200. Now, this much. When you look at King County, look at the increase is a whole lot greater than that. We're over 800,000. So this is how I explain it, because it gives you the data is why is important is the number does not lie. Yes, if you use a number or data as part of your preparing your buyer, it is more convincing. It's not just you telling, but it's the number, the transaction tells you what kind of market we're in. And I know that it's not easy in some of the country when you don't have, data that's available. But I think you could at least maybe at the office or as a company or in a franchise, that might be something that you might want to look at to start collecting data and be able to use that as a part of your marketing. Okay, strategy for buyer's market. Buyer's market means there's more houses there. It's an advantage to the buyer. Keep up to date on the price adjustments. Shop around for good mortgage terms. Request contingency allowance or extra such as a home warranty. Ask seller for the closing costs, meaning to ask seller to discount or help them pay something. And you have advantage, so you want to shorten the time of seller's acceptance. Says, I'm going to give you 2 days to make a decision on the seller's market. If it's a buyer's market, if it's a seller's market, you might want to give it a little bit extra time. Request a credit if inspection reveals needed repairs. All cash or mortgage pre-approval provides more leverage than in seller's market. You want to make sure that you have a proof that you might be able to show on the other side that, yes, my buyer has enough money. How about seller's market? You want to make sure the financing part is taken care of, or whether you're getting a loan, mortgage, or paying cash, you want to have a proof of funding that could help your situation more advantage the competing offer. And again, we're in a seller's market. Remember, King County was 5.6% over listed price. So offer list price or more. Put down larger amount in earnest money. And don't think about negotiating. You might want to put your best offer from the beginning. And minimize contingencies. You might want to take away some of those things. In our market, it's very common. The buyer does an inspection after he goes under contract. But in this market right now, a lot of buyers are waiving because you put an instruction contingency in, you might be disadvantaged compared to other buyer. Do not ask for seller's help with closing costs or financing. So what are some of the contingency that we have in our forms? But if you look at it on the checklist, there's a checklist between 110 and 113. And maybe some goes, sorry about that, 110 to 100, I guess 11. These are some of the checklist and questions that you might use for different type of people. What are some of the contingencies that could come with a purchase and sales agreement in the United States? There might be contingency, meaning is I think easiest way, maybe word contingency is very hard, means basically option or other criteria that they put as a part of purchase and sales agreement, such as attorney's review. You allow people to do attorneys to review the purchase and sales agreement. Some countries or some county, even in state in the United States, attorney is the only one who could write a contract. But state of Washington, you can write, a real estate agent can write a real estate contract. Maybe you're going to do inspection of the property, approval of financing. You might have to sell your current home in order to buy this new home. Early occupancy, meaning that you allow buyers to move in earlier than before closing. Appraisal, home warranty. What do you do with a personal property? Some of the couch and desk and things like that. Does that go with the house or that's going away? And also verification of a homeowner's insurance. Make sure you're able to get a homeowner insurance that's a reasonable cost. Maybe verifying some geographical, geological things, like maybe it's in a flood area. When in the winter monsoon season comes, that it might be all water. So you might want to know that. Verification permits and certificates of occupancy for improvements. I just gave you the example today. There was no building permit when they built the garage. So we said, no, we don't want to take a chance. So we backed out. Let's look at seller's concession. Permitting buyer to move in quickly, help with the financing, renting to buyers with option to buy, paying some of the buyer's closing costs, paying for improvements or repair defect. This is something the seller could offer to swing for the buyers to come and make an offer. Those are all listed in page 114. And it gives you a couple examples here that we could talk about. So let's look at this on page 116. It's a Rohan and Lindsay. Let me read this example. 2 days ago, you contacted the FSBO seller for sale by owner seller of the property that Rohan and Lindsay really want. So far, no one else has remitted your phone call. Rohan and Lindsay are ready to make a full price offer. This morning, the property popped up on the MLS as a new listing. The original listing agent contacted them and relisted the property, and now a buyer who is interested in the house. The list price, however, is now $10,000 higher than the sales price that for sale by owner seller quoted when the Rohan and Lindsay looked at the house. Seller was willing to sell for a certain amount before it was listed, but now basically seller raised the price because I guess they have to cover the commission and so forth. So what is there any weakness and strength? Robbins and Rohanson and Lindsay's offer. weakness is this, that now seller wants more money. But strength is, you know why seller wants more money. So there's a good way to negotiate as well. How would you advise Rohan and Lindsay to proceed? Depends on the situation. Of course, you might be able to offer the same thing that you offer, but you have to let them know there's a consequences that seller's not going to take it anymore because more offers be coming in, more showings happens rather than for sale by owner. So that could be an issue there, right? So let's flip all the way to page 119, how to presenting an offer. After you strategize with your buyer, you formulate it, you created a purchase and sales agreement or offer sheet. And this is what happens. Presenting an offer, our code of ethics standard of the practice says, Realtor shall submit offer and counter offers objectively and as quickly as possible. We cannot just hold on to, we need to present to the seller and the buyer either way, quickly as possible. Other buyer representative responsibility includes no time limit for the presentation in your contract. Seller might put a timeline on when you have to have offer in by and so forth. Like today's the one that we were dealing with today, offer deadline was 7 p.m. And I was just talking to my buyer till about 6:45 right before I came on this call. But again, they decided not to make an offer on this house, but it has a deadline that we needed to meet to 7 p.m. And you want to make sure when you submitted an offer that you notify listing agent you have transmitted an offer. Don't assume that just sending an email that they got it. You want to confirm that make sure they got it. If no response from listing agent, contact your managing broker to facilitate the presentation. Says, hey, listing agent, you need to get back to them whether you receive offer, are you going to present it, or am I allowed to present it to the seller, etc., etc. You need to get your managing broker involved if the other side is not responding. Listing brokerage cannot hold offers waiting for more. But the seller can. The best way is, you might say, we're going to review tomorrow, but if you receive an offer today, send it. But then they are going to do that. You have to deliver the offer to the seller ASAP. What about backup offer? Are you willing to take a backup offer? Standard practice 1-7 says, this is a code of ethics, Realtor shall continue to submit all offers and counter offers until closing, unless seller has waived this obligation in writing. Standard practice 1-8 says, shall submit all offers and counter offers to the buyer until acceptance, but have no obligation to continue to show properties to the clients after offer has been accepted unless otherwise agreed in writing. Even you're under contract, you have an obligation as a seller to present all the offer that might come to your way. Sometimes it's good to receive a second offer that could go into backup position. In case the first offer does not work, second buyer could take over and move forward. Make sure that everything you discuss about these should be in writing, or seller need to consult attorney. Discuss with buyer whether continuing to look at the property is in their best interest. Must represent all counter offers. Know that acceptance means you are under contract. Acceptance meaning you're both under contract and you are moving towards closing. So once you have both signature on, it is considered as a under contract. Let's look at some confidentiality again. Seller are not legally obligated to keep offer details or buyer's identity confidential. Seller can reveal the buyer's name and all the offer if seller chooses to through real estate agent, especially on the buyer's seller's market like us, our part. You know, seller will reveal a lot of terms of offer, so you get more better offer than what current offer you have, where people are going away because they know that they cannot win against that offer. Listing agent can disclose only with the seller's permission. We talk about that. If needed, have seller sign confidentiality agreement prior to offer. Do not put it in as a part of the contract. But it's a contract between you and your owner, or it might be opposite way. Listing agent must disclose if property is under contract. If I call up and say, hey, John, is your property under contract? Even though I know you want to get a more offer, better offer, but you cannot tell them, no, I'm sorry, I haven't received an offer. That's not allowed. You have to be truthful and honest. Listing agent must disclose properties under contract. So remember that. You have to disclose it. You cannot say, no, there's no other offer and try to collect more offer. You have to be truthful. Responding to other offer scenario, standard practice 1-15. Realtor in response to inquiry from the buyers or a cooperating broker shall within the seller's approval disclose the extent of the offers on the property where disclosure is authorized. Realtor shall also disclose if asked whether offers were obtained by the listing licensee, another licensing the listing firm, or by a competing cooperating broker. Responding to other offers. Says, hey, you're under contract, but I will present it, and I'll have seller's excuse. All right, I think what I'm going to do is, let me see how it is. Maybe we'll do one more section before we take our first break. In multiple offer situation, meaning that you have a more than competing offer, many people are making an offer on the same house. The house that we were trying to make an offer today, which we end up not making an offer, they had 6 offers already when I contacted them this afternoon. So I'm sure they end up with a little bit more offer. Our offer deadline was 7 p.m. today. When you have a multiple offer situation, you want to make sure that your buyer, as much as possible, as much as they want, their offer is more advantageous, maybe fewer or no contingencies. Buy property as is, so you don't need to fix anything. We don't do inspection. We're not going to ask you to do anything. I want to buy the property as is. Pay some of the seller's cost. Or home inspection prior to contract. You want to do home inspection before, so you don't have to negotiate home inspection after it goes under contract. No broom cleaning condition. Meaning I'll buy it as is, or you don't have to clean it very deeply because we're going to clean it later anyway, so that's okay. Things like that. Multiple offer situation. What can the representative do? That's us. Counsel the buyer not to panic. Tell buyers to have the price in mind, not go over that price. When you have a multiple offer situation in this market, one thing that I would tell my buyer is just to come up with a price. What price, how much are you willing to pay this house is for? That's not necessarily mean that that's all they can pay. I mentioned before, each house is different. So some houses buyers are willing to pay this much more than other ones. So you want to know what is the maximum amount you are willing to pay as a buyer. You need to find out. Be mindful of ethical and legal duties. As again, in the United States, we had a fair housing law we talked about a little bit yesterday, where we cannot discriminate based on color, sex, or religion, etc., etc. You cannot say, I don't want to sell to Asian people. I cannot say, I don't want to sell to Cambodian. Well, I don't want to sell to a Black person. You cannot say that in the United States. Multiple offers. Sending a love letter. What's love letter? Love letter is this. Love letter is a letter explaining that your situation as a buyer. Buyer giving a letter to the seller and tell them how wonderful the house is. They tell them about how stable they are and so forth, and give them more information, try to touch on the seller's emotion side. So the seller might say, oh, I'd rather sell to Mark's family than this person, and things like that. That's the love letter. But it can be, if you seller choose the offer based on love letter and it's part of the protected class, it can be in violation. So realtor should never read, accept, or deliver these letters if we have our choice. But in state of Washington, depends on where you are. State of Washington, you have no, I have no choice. If I receive a love letter, I have to deliver it to the seller. So it is very, very important nowadays that I do have a conversation with the seller about dangerous pros and cons of love letters. All right, that's the end. So let's stop here on page 123, and let's take our 10-minute break. Okay. We'll come back on about a little bit after 10 o'clock. Okay, let's take our break. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mike.
Using the it's talking about escalation clause. Escalation clause are used when it's a seller's market and there's a multiple offer. You determine highest acceptable price, ask to see competing offers. Offer must be competitive. What does that mean? Escalation clause is, let's say a property is listed at $500,000. And you say, I am actually willing to pay up to $600,000, but in $10,000 increments, meaning that I will pay $10,000 over to the closest competing offer. That's escalation clause. It is quite used very often right now in my market because it's a seller's market. We want to get the property, but I don't want to pay more than I have to. So once in a while, when you do like, 500 to 600,000, your next highest competing offer is, let's say, 560. Then I'm willing to pay $10,000 over that price. So it'd be 570 that I'm willing to pay. So that could be the situation. that use escalation clause. You're willing to pay more, but only how much more than the other one, and the maximum I'm willing to pay is a certain amount. Usually the escalation clause does not work in the bank-owned properties. Seller does not have to accept that either. Seller says, no, I don't want an escalation clause. You just give me the best offer you can. And appraisals involved, meaning the bank have to make sure to approve the amount. Maybe you still have to appraise. And there's no guarantee that you're going to get the property, because you have a multiple offer with a multiple escalation clause, then it gets very crazy as well. So that's a usage of multiple offers in the situation. Let's look at variables in disclosure. Standard practice -3-4. Realtors acting as a listing broker have an affirmative obligation to disclose the existence of dual or variable rate commission arrangements. You don't really have to worry about this one. Sometimes who gets paid, how you're going to get paid, you have to disclose to the client. Variable rate means they could say first $500,000 at 3% and next $500,000 at 1%, or whatever it might be. It might be a variable rate. And that needs to be disclosed by the seller. And of course, that needs to be agreed, and buyer agent have to understand that as well. Disclose accepted contract. Realtor shall disclose the existence of the accepted offers, including offers with unsold contingencies, to any broker seeking cooperations. In other words, if somebody asks and say, hey, Mark, do you have an offer? Is it accepted or not accepted? We have an obligation, there's a code of ethics for realtors, to reveal them that, yes, I have an offer that's here. Yes, I have an accepted offer, whatever it might be, you need to reveal to the other party. We have to do that. And of course, you need a seller's permission, but you need to disclose that. You cannot lie about it. Basically, you cannot tell them, yeah, I have another offer, so bring me a better offer, when there is no other offer. Or you cannot hide, says, yeah, no offer, but even though there's one offer already. So you cannot do that. Make sure you tell the truthful. How about counter offers? Counter offers, sometimes a buyer makes an offer, then the seller responds because they don't accept the full term, but they are counter offering something. The sellers like to see it. Then the buyer have to respond and says, is the counter offer reasonable? The situation changed? Make sure we as a realtor are able to explain the difference between the offer and the counter offer and what entails. And you have to figure out, of course, it should be the buyer's decision. If they say, you know what, Mark, I don't like the counter offer, so I'm not going to accept it. That's okay. You need to let the buyer make that decision. And going back and forth before if you are mutually accepted offer, remember the seller can take other offer that comes in. So sometimes just going back and forth for a little bit might not be good. You going back and forth, then all of a sudden the other offer comes in and seller says, nope, I'm going to take that offer. I don't care about what we negotiated. So you could lose. So going back and forth many times is not a good practice to do. Here, talking about REO properties. REO means real estate owned, that means bank foreclosure. Usually the offer is made through asset manager who is controlling the bank's asset. It is usually as is where it is condition, meaning that they're not going to do any repairs. You're buying it as you see it. And a lot of times there's no seller disclosure or concession. No contingency. They don't like house sale contingency a lot of times. If you have a house to sell, a lot of REO sellers say, no, I can't take your offer. And a lot of acceptance is handled through a counter offer addendum, meaning that we make an offer in our forms, and sometimes REO, bank-owned properties, they have their own forms that they want you to fill out. In lieu of the actual MLS forms, or on top of, might become form of the new purchase and sales agreement contract, or maybe it's addendum to the contract. And usually the offer takes a review by senior management, and the offer response process takes longer than usual. Usually when you have a purchase and sales agreement in residential in the United States, it's usually within 24 hours you are going to get an answer. But when it's REO, sometimes it takes 5 or even 5 to 10 business days. So you need to let your buyer know that there's a difference when you write in an offer on REO, real estate owned or bank foreclosure properties. So it's a little bit different to protect your client. Don't write a counter offer addendum, markup invalidated. Check counter documents for alteration from the agreed terms, because they might bring in terms that your buyer might not be agree with. You want to encourage your buyer to schedule a home inspection. They might not even fix it, but you still want to encourage them to do a home inspection. And make sure you want to arrange for final walkthrough, meaning you want to walk through the house right before close, because then hoping that make sure the condition of the property hasn't changed. Take photos for your buyer at the time of the purchase contract, so you know that it looks the same. Make sure you meet all the deadlines. Bank property, owned property is like a machine, and they miss one day, they say, sorry, you're out. I'm going to take the next offer. So be very, very careful. And you might want to get a better comprehensive title insurance when you're purchasing REO properties. Title insurance is the insurance that covers all the legal deeds and boundary lines and things like that that will come on to put a lien on your property. You want to make sure better protection, because bank property, a lot of times, things you don't know much. And you might have to close on time. They might not allow you to extend. There might be penalty for that. So make sure you follow all the guidelines. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with a bank property, bank has an upper hand. So you almost have to do what bank wants you to do. What is short sale? Maybe this might not be familiar in Cambodia. Short sales occurs when homeowners financial distress and cannot keep up with mortgage payments. So they cannot keep up with mortgage payment, but value of the home has declined, so it's now worth less than current mortgage price. So you bought the home for $500,000 and you borrow money for $400,000 and you put $100,000 down. But market goes really bad, and now the market value of the property is $380,000. but you still owe $400,000 on the money to the bank. So bank have to take short, meaning bank have to take less than what house is worth, what money they borrow money, because the house's value is lowered. It happened in the United States after the 2010 recession that we had. A lot of short sale. And bank have to approve, saying, yep, we are willing to only take 380,000 instead of 400,000. So that's one thing that you might want to, the short sale occurs when that happens. So what happens when the short sale? Offer made to seller but approved by the, seller have to accept it. Plus the lender have to approve the sale of the property or the price, because it's usually lower than the money that they borrow. You might have to provide proof of funds with the contract, offer a fair price, or risk lender turning it down. Remember, even the seller might be okay with it. You have to get seller's lender to get okay. It could be a long wait till the bank approves it. I had a short sale that gone on for 6 months. Took 6 months for seller's lender to accept it. So if you need to move in right away, short sale might not be the house you want to do. It's sold as is condition, usually. Again, this is where the market data comes into play. Whether what's the right price for the home, regardless of how much the house is priced at. So what can we do to protect the buyer? Not depositing earnest money before the accepted could weaken the offer. Try to include a non-subsequent offers clause in the contract. In other words, I'm not going to stay with you and I'm not going to back out. You want to make sure you check what money is owed on the property. And you might want to tell us, as a buyer, I will wait, but I'm not going to wait more than 2 months or 30 days, 60 days, whatever it might be. And you want to update CMA, remember comparative market analysis on property, because value can decline during a long wait. Can decline. So I don't know whether I share a CMA report. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share the Chrek, only the data part of the CMA report for you. Not the marketing type, but at least just the data type, what you could do. Let's see what would be the best one. Okay, I loaded the CMA report, and CMA report looks like this. So this one has all the sold and pending and active comparables. It's mapped out for where my client is. My client's right here. So this is 10-mile radius. They have a very unique property. And it shows you on the data like this. What's active property, where it is, how much, so forth. Original price, list price. CVEA is market time, how long you've been on the market. This is pending property. Pending property, pending inspection property is basically it's under contract, but they have not closed the transaction. And here's a sold property. These are the sold property. With that said, with a grand total, I have a 31 listings, And I can figure out average is this square footage. That's the size of the home. To look at square footage, it's easy to just drop the last letter. So 2,700 square feet is usually right around 270 square meters. Average wise, they 25 days on the market. Original list prices versus the list price, and then sold price. See, when you look at it, original list price was 759, 706. But at the end of the day, sold price is 782. So it's higher than what listed price is again. So these are the things, and he talks a little bit more about each property that they wanted. Shows you that. So that's comparative market analysis report. And we're able to do that in the United States because of availability of data. And our MLS, because MLS covers not just your company, but everybody. Every house that's listed on the market will go through MLS if it's represented by the agent. If the seller's selling on their own, it does not come on to MLS. But in the United States, sellers selling their own, let's say like for sale by owner, it only amounts to less than 5% of the listings. So let's talk about becoming a skilled negotiator. Know what to say and best time to say it. Negotiation, skill, you have to, but just this is generally. When you try to negotiate, especially, you have to remember, prepare, and aware of your legal accountability. In state of Washington, United States, real estate, if you're a real estate person, agent, you have to have a license. And license tells you about what your obligation is and what you can do and what you cannot do. Of course, best way when you're negotiating is, we say poker face, right? Keep your emotions in control. And sometimes you need to understand when to walk away. United States, usually what happens is negotiations done through buyer's agent and listing agent. And we both negotiate from what the seller and the buyer wants. Then we come and we report to the seller and the buyer, and we make an agreement. Hopefully become an agreement. And not just, you have to represent your side, but goal is to find solution or to create a win-win situation where the buyer and the seller both are happy and satisfied. That's part of the negotiation real estate. You have to be win-win. Win-lose or lose-win is not a good. Especially as a realtor, because you're going to have to work with those agents again and again and again in the future as well. So key point to review on Module 4. Preparing the buyer to make an offer involves educating them on the process while also understanding their emotions. Realtors should analyze and interpret the data and present a clear market analysis on the property prior to making an offer. It's always data. Somebody put it on the chat, right? Data and number does not lie. So it's always good to have those backups. Realtors should assess clients' advantage and disadvantage in terms of the market, property, financing, and the seller's position prior to developing an offer. There are many offer scenarios, multiple offers, escalation clause, variable rate disclosure, REOs and short sales, and other things, counter offers. So make sure you understand that. Any question on module 4?
Hello, Ma. Morning.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Ma, can you share the experience that you have used? What is the key success factor for negotiation?
What's the key for successful negotiation?
Yes.
So it's said here as well, right? When it comes to negotiation. First of all, you need to understand who you are representing, right? That's the key part. And also, sorry, you're breaking up a little bit, but also in Cambodia, most of you are representing seller, right?
Yes.
But I think we have an obligation as a real estate practitioner to make sure the deal is a fair deal for everybody, right?
Yeah.
That's a very, very important. I know that we have to look for best interest of the seller, but we want to make sure the deal that you're making is fair to everybody. Because that's when our reputation becomes bad. That's one of the reasons why real estate agent has sometimes bad reputation, because they think we're bad because you're only looking to get money. But you want to make sure that, like, remember it talks about the win-win situation. Make sure create a situation that's win for both parties. Yeah, but if one party is unreasonable, of course, it might not be it. But this is one thing that I practice. I'm even working for the buyer or the seller, if they are very, very unreasonable, every time I might choose not to work with them anymore. Right? Yeah, you're going to say, yeah, it's hard to let go of money, but all the energy and the time that you're going to spend for this unreasonable person, it's not good. Let's go find somebody that wants to go work with you and be reasonable, right? If the seller is pricing the property unreasonably, what happens? He doesn't sell, right?
Yeah.
And who's the seller going to blame? They're going to say, hey, Keith, you're not doing a good job. That's the reason why property is not selling, right? They blame you. They don't blame them.
Yeah.
They're going to say, you could say, I told you your price is too high. You have to be this. No. Price is okay because you didn't do this. You didn't do that. That's why property has not sold.
Yeah.
So for me is not even a buyer as an agent. When I do an interview, I have a choice to work with who I want as well. Client has a choice who they want to work with. And I also have a choice to who I want to work with. So I do not work with unreasonable people because I don't want to waste time. Plus, I'm going to get fired anyway later. So might as well not waste time or the money. Because when you do real estate, there's money involved, right? When you work with the seller, you have to spend money to advertise and so forth. But I'm not going to waste my time or money if that seller is not reasonable.
Yeah.
So I think,
we may talk to client first, whether the client is reasonable or not. If not, don't continue.
Yeah, don't continue. They're reasonable, continue. But if not, go work with somebody else. Too much stress, too much energy spent. Same as a buyer. If you're working with a buyer, it's because and every country is different. You keep negotiating back and forth. But if you see that there's not going to be a resolution, just cut it. Says buyer, we're not even close. You know, especially sometimes the buyer makes an unreasonable offer, right? Maybe that's their tactics, offer very low.
Yeah.
But remember, seller and a buyer both sell and buy with emotion. If the seller receives very unreasonable low offer, what happens? Seller's mad.
Yeah.
Seller angry, says, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't want to work with that buyer.
Yeah.
Even though a buyer may be willing to pay the amount, right? But sellers just emotionally, they're mad, angry, says, no, I don't care. I don't care how much he offers. I don't want to work with Mark.
Yeah.
So your goal as a member is talk about to keep emotion in control. So you do not want to become emotional like the seller does.
Yeah.
You know, you want to keep it emotionless and keep the emotions down. That's your job as a professional. And that's one step of very skilled, successful negotiating.
Yeah.
Treat it like a business. You know, don't get excited. You know, we all are human, so sometimes we get mad, we get excited, but that's not what our clients are looking for. They're looking for professional help.
Yeah.
So I think that's the very, very important part, becoming a skilled negotiator and have a successful negotiation.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we just don't come together, and that's okay. It happens.
Yeah.
So I think how you could work very efficiently and not waste time
Yeah.
on the things that's not good. Bad things only create bad energy, and you're gonna get angry. So
Okay. Yeah.
stay, you know, and you know, does not mean that you're bad or that person's bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not just the unreasonable. Sometimes, you know, our personality does not match. You know, our personality, you know, some people are very easy to work with because we think alike or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But some people don't think like you, but does not mean that person's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they might be okay and I'm okay, he's okay, but we're not going to come to agreement. So it's hard to work. So those are times I say, you know, those are the times when I know if the personality conflict, I usually refer that client to somebody else in my office that think like them. Then I get a referral fee from them in the United States.
Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Mhm.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Better to stay very positive and spend the time and money and work with the people who's positive with you. That's the key part, and that's the beginning even before it gets to negotiation.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get along, they're not even listening to you when you give us suggestions. But they're gonna blame you for the mistake. Doesn't matter. So that's how I look at my business. So I pick and choose who I want to work with. But a lot of my clients will become a client for life. In the United States, people buy a house about nowadays it's like every 10 years they buy houses. Before it used to be every 5 to 7 years. Now some clients has bought and sold with me for the last 15 years. Some of them, you know, one family, I started working with a grandmother, and the grandmother told the kids, and kids work with me, and grandkids work with me, and also great grandkids of the grandmother even work with me, some family. So those are, they understand. So those are what you want to create. That could only be created with working with the people who has a positive energy with you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any question? It doesn't have to be just that, what we talked about. And real estate business is not an easy business. Why? because we are dealing with most of the people, most price, most expensive things they have or they're trying to buy for many people, right? It's more expensive in the car, you know, and even with that, you know, and that doesn't lose value a lot of the things. Yeah, you're helping them with to spend the most money they ever spend in their life. Of course, they're going to be emotional, but that's why they need a professional help like us. But that's why you need to let them know in the beginning is that we are here to help them, not to control them. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to live in the house with your buyer, right? So buyer make the decision, but our job is to help them make a right decision for them and their family, not for you. If we were successful at that in the United States, you get a commission as a buyer agent. Even though it's paid by the seller, we receive a commission as a buyer's agent. You get paid, you never say free. Remember we talked about it, never say my service is free to you. It's not. Unless the transaction happens, you don't get paid either from the seller or the buyer, from anybody. All right, everybody else is good? But I want to share with you something right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Mark,
go ahead.
just very quick. Yeah, as a
Go
buyer
ahead.
agent, what percentages of the commission you get from either side? I mean, from
Usually,
buyer, from seller.
United States, it's not a set amount. Usually, if the total commissions are, let's say 6 or 5, it's half and half. Buyer agent gets, I mean, it's the 6% total. Usually the listing agent gets 3 and buyer agent gets 3. Just remember, in the United States, not too many agent that's both sides on one transaction. So it is usually split equally.
And which one, as a buyer agent, which side do you get more commission from? I mean, you can either get the commission from the buyers or seller, right?
Most of the time, you're going to get commission from the seller.
Still from the seller.
Yeah. So
But
basically, when you,
represent the buyer.
for example, in US, if the seller is selling a house, total commission will be 6%. And 3% goes to the listing agent and 3% goes to the selling agent. It doesn't have to be even, but what it is we are going to know which each side gets paid what paid. So if they find out the listing agent taking more money than you, then sometimes you say, you know what, next time I'm not going to work with Mark, because we see all the settlement statement, because all the commissions are revealed. Is that illegal? No, because commission, we cannot set a commission rate, and our US, you cannot set a commission rate because it's antitrust. Some company, the commission rate and who pays and how you could get paid, could be set by law. I gave you an example of Japan. Japan can, maximum commission that they can receive, I think from one side is a 2.5%. In Japan, a lot of times, buyer pays buyer agents, but sometimes listing agent pays it as well. But maximum you could receive from one side is 2.5%. So you represent a seller and a buyer on both transactions, you might get up to 5%. Or potentially you could get 7.5% because you can ask the buyer, if the seller pays 5% and the seller of buyers, you can ask for more 2.5 up to 2.5% to the buyer if you choose to, but you usually don't.
Okay, yes.
So that's the commission usually. So in Cambodia, let's say you list a property, you said listing agent only gets paid, right? There's no buyer agency. What's the percentage you get paid? Usually. Anybody could tell me? How do you get paid commission? Who pays commission and how much? Usually.
Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah. 2 to 3% variable prices depending on the amount of. Yes.
Okay, variable.
But for condos, I think we could get paid more than land.
Yeah,
So,
it's okay.
But I think actually it sounds the practice could be similar if I'm not wrong. I have someone who wants to buy a property. So I will look for a listing that property, and then usually we get, say for example, 3% total. But among myself, if I can find the seller directly, I'll get the entire percentage commission, right? But if I, for example, I have an agent, a listing agent, like in the US, I get someone to find a listing or find a property for me. We split the commission. Usually it's 50-50.
50-50, yeah. I think, however it is, splitting the commission 50-50 is a good practice. You might feel like you did a lot of job, but 50-50 is a good practice so that you're not upsetting other agents and so forth. And funny thing is about real estate is you might realize if you've been in business for a long time, you're going to end up working with that person again and again and again. So you don't want to create a bad relationship.
That's true, yeah.
Right? Yeah, you might make a lot of money on this one, but you made the other agent upset. Next time you have to deal with that person. It's not going to be easy, right? So I think my goal is be reasonable and be fair about commission. I know we all want to make money and we're in this business to make money, but there's many different ways of making money. Especially you're going to be in this business for a long time. Be fair, share your commission so that you create a good relationship. Creating a good relationship, like you said, you talked about a land deal. If you have a listing agent on the other side and they might say, I had a great time working with you. So next time I have a good land deal, I'm going to bring it to you before I go to anybody else, right? So creating a good relationship between the agents is very, very important, regardless of if you're in the same franchise or not in the same franchise. As an industry, we need to be good to each other. Yeah. Definitely, we need to be good to each other.
But one point I think is worth mentioning: we never get paid the commission from buyers.
Right.
We might get some tips, but not the commission.
That could be different because in the United States, this is one thing that I get paid from the buyer, regardless. Because if buyer says, Mark, I want you to go look for these land, or I want you to negotiate on our behalf, and buyer pays me commission or consulting fee or whatever you want to call it, I have that situation that could happen. Because I have a long listing lost in relationship right now. I think it's going on to our 3rd year. I'm working with one of the companies, and not to go into detail, I work with this company. They acquire land. What they do is they grow a tree and tree seed, and they're an innovating company. They use a drone to plant seed and things like that. So drone and a tree company. So they need a lot of land to grow the trees, or to at least a baby tree, so they could take it. So if they see a land or whatever, says, hey, Mark, find me a land. This is the type of land I want. Or they say, we found this land. Can you negotiate on our behalf? And a lot of times these places are not up for sale. So that's where we have a retainer agreement that it's a variable. They pay me a certain percentage, minimum amount that they have to pay me for every acquisition. Then otherwise it goes up to the percentage of the property. I mean, variable commission.
Yeah, so is it
So
right
buyer-
to say that usually the buyer who pays the commission is corporate?
No.
And
Mhm.
no.
For you, yeah.
And usually the listing is not visible. I mean, it's not listed on the market.
Right.
Those kind of property.
I
So-
remember we've been talking about called FSBO, for sale by owner. A lot of people try to sell their house on their own because they don't want to pay commission. Those are time if the buyer wants to buy a property that's for sale by owner and I'm not getting paid through the MLS or through the listings, then the buyer will have to pay me. And my buyer understands that because we have that. Remember we talked about the buyer consultation last week?
Yes.
I tell them that in case that you decide to buy a house, that you're going to have to pay me this amount of money in order for me to help you. And right now, the amount is $5,000. Minimum $5,000. My buyer will have to pay me if they want my help to represent them. So if the $5,000 could come from the seller side or the buyer side, but that's the minimum that I'm willing to do for the work. So you could do that as well. I know it's not popular yet, but you could only create new business opportunity by doing this. It's a potential. Right?
Yes.
All right.
We are
Any other
already
things?
doing it. We are already doing it.
You're already doing it.
But it's just not regulated, I say.
Yeah. It's not as regulated as a lot of the countries are, and that's okay. You know what? I think we as a realtor, we need to do the right things and correct things. And I think all of us know what is the right things to do, right? We have a conscience, we have an ethics. We have to follow that regardless of the regulations there or not. And your conscience is usually, and your ethics are usually above any regulation, usually. If we are the type of person that's always trying to find a little way to cheat, probably that's not the good way to do business. In English, you say, what goes around comes around. So whatever things you do wrong, good or bad, right? Even in Asia, we do, right? We treat others, give out fortune, the fortune will come back to you. Same thing. Fortune, give fortune, the fortune will come back to you. But if you give out bad things, if you do bad things, it's going to come back to you. So it's not, that's why to me as realtors, as a realtor, and you're part of our realtor family, our own business ethics is very, very important. That has over and beyond above whether you have a licensing law, you have a license or regulations. So that's one thing that we want to make sure. I think that's part of it. That's part of the study of being a buyer broker, ABR. How can you serve your clients to the best of your ability and make sure you guide your client through the right path? Might not be the easiest path, but not finding the very shady bad path, the right path. All right, so that was module 4. I think we did the 50 minutes. So why don't we take our next 10 minutes break and we'll finish up for the day. All right, let's take our 10-minute break. We come back right about 11 o'clock and then we'll finish up for the day. Okay, thank you. On the chat right now. So it is in the chat room, that link to the NAR website. I just want to go through a little bit on the NAR website right now. So that might be a good resources to you. All right, you should be able to see the website. So there are many different tabs here. One of the areas that it's going to help you quite a lot is one area is research and statistics. Under research and statistics, you could get a lot of news. You could get a lot of housing statistics. You could get research report, a lot of them presentation slide. Of course, this is have to do with the US real estate. But if you have a client that's investing in the United States, this might be a good place to go. So for good example, if you go to the housing statistics, there are a lot of things that you could look. You got existing home sales, pending home sales, realtors affordability, home buyers and sellers by metropolitan area, statistical area, etc., etc. So let's try this one, like home buyer and sellers by metropolitan area. Maybe I'll go to the different one. That's more easy. Too much wording. Medium home prices. How's that? Then you go click here. From last quarter, these are the data that you could get on each area of the country of the median price. Let me show it bigger. And so forth. So let's say if you look at, so what it is this was the median price, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2021 fourth quarter. So let's pick somewhere that we know. How about Los Angeles, Long Beach area? Now median price is $688,000 in that area. It used to be 611. Things like that. You're able to pull up these type of data. Let's pull up something else. Existing home sales. These give you that data and also give you, this one is easy. Snapshot is one that's very, very easy to look at, right? And this is the one that I shared with you last week, medium house price. And this comes up every month. And our new stats will become, just came up for the February. We're a month behind. So next one will be end of March. These things you could use. So there's a lot of research area that you could use, right? Under research and statistics. How about when you go to research report? There's one that's under international. So you could see the international transaction in US residential real estate. And you could actually download the report here. And these are the highlights. And some infographics that you could use. Top states where foreign buyer purchased residential property. There you go. These are how you're able to use this free if you're interested in US market and your clients are. And under education, there are a lot of things that you could do under education. A lot of them, you got designation, certification, you have a code of ethics training, etc. Some of the designation, of course, I mean, you're taking one of them. Right? You're taking the ABR class, and there's whole other things that you could do online some of you might take in CIPS from a group of our Realtor and Realtor family members. And some of them is very expensive, some of them is very cheap, but you could get many different designations and so forth from the Realtors. You could, if you're like okay with English, you could take a lot of online classes as well that they're going to direct you to. So these are the things that you can use as part of the Realtors Association. Without even being a member, you're able to take some of these advantage as well. Like here, go to the real estate topics, marketing, social media, sales tip techniques, and so forth. There's some of are available without you log into it, but if you are able to log in, you become a member and are international member, you could get many other things out of it. After you sign in, some of the stuff will be available for you. Okay. And under research and statistics, when you housing statistics, let's go there, like a presentation slides. You could even see the presentation slides that a lot of time Dr. Lawrence Yun used. So this one will be a little bit old, December 26th, Economic and Real Estate Outlook. It's from the Real Estate Forecast Summit in December. Talks about unemployment rate, payroll jobs, jobs recovery variations, etc. Existing home sales monthly, existing home sales annually, things like that. You could see all these things. Right? Any question? This can be accessed by anybody, and I did put in the, like I said, on the web link to NAR site on there as well. Then other news items that you could pick up here as well. Blogs, magazines, NAR newsrooms, latest news, newsletters, etc. Okay? And other site that you might be useful to you is this is only for member only. This is RPR site, Realtor Property Resources. This is member only, and you can use it if you become a international member. Oops, sorry about that. RPR, you're able to search a property anywhere in the United States and create a report. So it depends on where you want to go. You know, it's either residential or you could do commercial if you choose to. So let's pick, my client wants to buy some house. So you just punch in the address and you'll be able to get information for this property. You could look different ways. Or the street maps. And all these values are there. Takes you about the AVMs, the values, and so forth. That's the demographics. You can have information on school. This is only available to Realtor member, and you can use this if you're an international Realtor member as well. Okay, and this is a good site, and you could create all kinds of reports. Let's say if you want to create a report. I want to create a, let's say, school report. And I might pick one of the schools. Or you could do a seller's report or whatever report it might be. You could create a report like this with your face and everything on it. So this might be good if you're doing you're planning to do a lot of investment property, working with investors into United States. This might be a good tools to have. All right. All right, let's start a little bit into module 5 before we finish off for the day. All right, this is now from contract to closing. Real estate agent's job and the value is after he goes under contract to the closing is where you're really going to do a lot of work, especially a lot of behind the scene work. That's harder, that your buyer or the seller does not know that you're doing that. Of course, negotiating price and doing contract is important, but a lot of things needs to happen from there to closing. So I truly believe this is one of the most important aspect of what we as a real estate agent do. So what are we looking at? Module 5 learning objectives are explain the immediacy of contingencies to clients and outline the mortgage application process, guide your clients through the home inspection and appraisal process, ensure that your client knows the different type of required insurance and understands the closing process. Understanding the closing process is really, really important. And I want to share with you what is Washington State's closing process looks like. Let's see, wait for me. Remember, I posted guide for buying a home. Through there, I made sure that I go through this with my client, but this is what the closing process looks like. Maybe it's a little too small, but this is a purchase and sales agreement that's agreed. This is a buyer agent side. This is a selling agent side. What all these have to happen before you could close transaction. So I explained this chart to my clients. And I let them know that my job is make sure these things are taken care of and goes smoothly. So, but that's the United States, but you could create similar chart for your transaction as well. So again, I know that I already did it, but for those of you who did not get it, I'm going to load the buyer guide. There's a guide to buying a home. And guide to selling a house as a seller. So I wrote it both documents. I know it's in English and it's a little bit different, but you could use it to create your own in Cambodia as well. And these are very, very helpful. So the buyer understands the minimally how the real estate works. Okay. Okay, let's continue with module 5. Contract contingencies. This is starting on page 138. There's always a timeline on purchase and sales agreement or your sales contract. I think it's always good to even spell it out. You know, when is the deliverable earnest money have to complete by? When does mortgage application needs to be complete by? When the homeowners and the flood insurance, all the insurance needs to be taken care of. You put a date on there so that everybody understand what is your deadline is. It usually spells out in a contract, like such as home inspection in United States, or at least in my MLS area, that usually the inspection date is 10 days from mutual acceptance. When both parties agree, you have a 10 days to do home inspection, deliver the report. Or when do we need to get a commitment from the lender mortgage saying that, yes, they could borrow this money finally, how many days from mutual acceptance? So it's always good to spell out the timing or the timeline of these amendments are. So one of them that we should understand is, even though we're not a mortgage banker, but we should at least understand how the mortgage process works. In United States, a mortgage rate and everything is determined based on how much money you owe. We call credit scores. How much money you owe, and we have a score that determines us what type of interest rate and what type of loan we're able to get. So it's always good for the buyer to keep very clean records so they don't, no back payment, no, not too much money borrow and so forth. But you know, it's a little bit different than the Asia concept, because in the United States, you almost have to have some type of credit, meaning that you have had a history that you borrow money and you pay it back. That history is very, very important when they are considering a loan in the United States. So something to avoid doing transaction is adding or closing new credit line or accounts, changing jobs, or quitting jobs. Large purchases, car, furniture, etc., that could differentiate the money that you borrow. And keep changing bank accounts. Those are the yellow flags. So they want to see a very stable spending, very stable income, and very stable financial activities. And I think this is almost similar to any of the country as well. Maybe the big difference is when you borrow a mortgage loan, about 80% of the loan amount is leaned against the house. And the 20% is leaned against the person. In US, a lot of the conventional loan, regular loan, you pay 20% down already. So only 80%. So it's truly a mortgage loan. If the buyer cannot pay the loan every month, bank is going to take the house away and bank is going to resell the house on the market and recover the money. And it's not a personal loan that they're going to come after you all the time. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't. They just take your house, you say, you go away and we'll recover your debt from selling the house. So mortgage process is very important. Loan estimate conversion, apply with multiple lenders. Not necessarily each lender is the same. Rate might be different. Criteria might be different. They have to give you a loan estimation now. Not a guarantee, but you have to now. And they could compare two loans, rate and terms, closing costs, money that you have to bring in, other charges, and etc. Then after you see the estimate, that's when you're going to make a decision, say, I want to go with this lender, not this one, because they have a better term for me. And on page 142, it does give you some of the loan process paper. This is what the estimate looks like. That's just a sample, but this is only US. Then you have to be, you don't have to know everything about mortgage, but you are the quarterback. You're going to try to assist the mortgage banker to make sure that your client is doing what they're supposed to do, turning in all the documents and so forth. Render requests for additional documentation and information. Provide an adverse list of the documents that our lenders typically request. Client can begin compiling information. Some need additional documentation for military and veterans loan. If you're self-employed, you own your own business, you might have a different paper they might need. Or you just recently went through divorce. Or you had some financial issue in the past. Those things, they're going to want documents. So you might want to let your buyer know, say, hey, you need to prepare these documents. And these might even start even before you start looking at the house. Right now, ideally, they have gone through all this process and they have the letter says you are approved for the loan up to whatever the amount. You want the letter before you even start looking at the house right now, because right now in seller's market, seller's going to be asking for you to provide that letter. We call it pre-approval letter with the offer a lot of times. So that's one thing that you want to remember is that mortgage, you don't have to understand everything, but please study how the mortgage house loan works in your Cambodia, if there's any, and if you're in a commercial, how the commercial loan works as well. I think it's very, very important. And the right things to do is not for you to know everything about the loan, but find the right partner. To me, real estate is a teamwork. You have the agent and you have your mortgage person, you might have an attorney or judicial scrivener, whoever you use, and seller or the buyer. These are the teams. You cannot do everything. You want to create a team of the expert. You want to have experts as a part of your team. So you don't have to study everything. And we're not able to study everything. So we could concentrate in on what we're good at is selling a real estate, selling and buying a real estate and helping our clients. And we are the team leader with all these team members as well. That's a very, very important part. So what is home appraisal details process? And what I'm going to do is, I know it's a little bit off time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here. And tomorrow we will finish the whole things up, but also I'm going to share with you how the appraisal or the inspection looks like, the report. Okay? Any questions or comments you might have? for right now. Anybody? Everybody's doing okay? No questions? No comments?
No, sir.
Jonathan? Go ahead. Everybody's okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yes, I'm fine, teacher.
Yeah,
Anyway,
what
just
I-
thanks. Just
Uh-huh,
thanks
uh-huh.
for your sharing.
So what I want you to do tomorrow, it's a little bit of a homework, even though we're finishing early. So let me see, where is it? What I want you to do by tomorrow is, you don't have to share with me, but I want you to figure out in real estate business, what is your weakness as an agent? What you're not good at? Yeah, think about that and just write it down. And also write it down what you are good at. Some people say, I'm bad with math. So when I do calculation for my client, it doesn't do well. I want what you do very, very well, you do a good job, and what you don't do a good job. All of us has that. Also sit down and think about the opportunity that you have in your business. What are some of the opportunity that you might have in your business? And also, what is a threat? What is a negative that could not help your business? Of course, one of the things that we just had was COVID, right? COVID was hard for us, the real estate agent, for a lot of things. We could not do business the way we want to. A lot of the foreign investor doesn't come into town anymore. So those could be that. Is there war in like Ukraine affect your business? So think about it. What you're good at personally, what is you're bad at, and looking at your whole business, what is your potential opportunity that you have, and what is threat to your business? So those 4 things I want you to think about. You don't have to share with me, but those things becomes very, very important. And we will talk about that tomorrow in chapter 6. But we'll start from here. We'll talk about the appraisal and the home inspection. And I'm going to share with you both the home inspection and appraisal report tomorrow. With that said, anybody else has any question? Everybody's good? All right, we're a little bit early today, but let's finish today. And thank you very much for staying with me this morning. I enjoy your afternoon, enjoy your lunch, and have a great afternoon selling real estate as well. So thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye.
Have a good
Mark.
night.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.